Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier. Welcome back to another tier list video. I'm joined here by my Irish friend, Jacksepticeye.
Top of the morning to you, ladies. I'm Jacksepticeye, and welcome to WatchMojo.com countdown.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, where today we're ranking the top 10, top 64 horror matchups that people suggested and a couple that we threw in ourselves after the fact to get it to this number. And I didn't include everything everyone suggested because some of them are repeats, some of them I just didn't know the fucking characters. And I just don't want to talk about Junko versus Springtrap. So, yeah, that's the tier list. You can see what's on it. You can hear what we think. Let's get to it. We've got the tiers of absolutely, sure enough, whatever, no, don't know well enough, and I'll probably add more as we go. I might add one immediately, because the first matchup we have here is Zalgo versus the Scarlet King. A matchup that I actually do really like, and I have no idea how you would possibly do it on Death Battle. No clue. Because I just don't know if they even fit Death Battle as much as maybe just like a written versus thing. Just because of the way the characters are.
Is the Scarlet King, that's the SCP one?
Yeah. The matchup is based around like SCP mythos for Scarlet King, and specifically Fear mythos for Zalgo, which is like SCP but less moderated and about creepypasta instead of being its own thing. Because like Zolgo's creepypasta is really fucking bad, because it's just kind of like, oh, there's this thing out there, and when it opens its mouths, we all die, and it like corrupts things. But I think like the interesting part that I would like for this is that Zalgo corrupts things on the internet, and the Scarlet King is on the internet, pretty much. I mean, I say that, it makes it sound like he's on Discord DMing people, but like the Scarlet King, like, he's in stories and like there's mentions of him and stuff.
He's playing League of Legends against the Scarlet King, and when Zalgo opens his mouth to talk shit through the fucking voice chat, Scarlet King just dies.
What's funny is I believe that Zolgo's main thing, it was one of their main things is the direct weakness of the other, but I don't remember which one it was. But I do genuinely really like the matchup. I'm just trying to visualize how it would work in a death battle, because they don't really have physical form. Like, even the image I've used is like, I mean, it's what I used for a thumbnail I did once. That's why they look a bit funky, and why they have red outlines instead of just looking completely pitch black on the gray background. I'm just not sure how you would make it look.
I don't know. I guess I'd be kind of interested to hear about it. It definitely seems more interesting than 682 versus Doomsday as far as SCP matchups go.
Yeah, I definitely prefer it to that. I forgot to put 682 Doomsday on here. Despite there's a 682 matchup on here, I forgot to put 682 versus Doomsday. This tier list will be available to everyone. I will update it. I will put 682 versus Doomsday on here just for you people. And I guess I'll also put Junko versus Springtrap, because more than a few people suggested that, but I just don't want to talk about it. I'll put those on there for you people to make your own damn tier list, because it's a fucking free planet. Do what you want. I think I'll put this in sure enough, just because I don't know how you do it. If you could pull it off visually, it would be really cool. You could probably do something neat where, like, they're both infecting the death battle during the analyses, but it's, like, very subtle and in the background, and it only really becomes obvious in the conclusion. That then it's like, you don't know which one is corrupting the death battle during the analyses, and the winner is it turns out the winner was doing it the whole time. That would be just, like, a cool thing you could do, just to throw in the nature of the two. Yeah. Then we have King Boo versus just a Gengar. Just a Gengar.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused.
I've seen this one around a lot, but the what gets
Yeah.
me is typically I'm not a big fan of just composite an entire Pokemon species in a matchup. But there's also King Boo's a pretty whatever Mario character, honestly.
Oh, I was gonna look at what about like Pokemon Misty Dungeon Gengar, and then I realized, nah, you've got like a thing with that. That's not on here.
Yeah, I do.
Maybe it should be, just because it is still a Gengar.
No, it's not. Maybe. Oh, there's an idea. If you want to see us rank isekai matchups, put it in the comments.
Fucking, I can't wait to put Steve versus Terraria guy on there.
Yep.
Give us ideas for random genres we can rank,
But this is.
except Marvel and DC. I mean, we could do that, but I'd rather
I
not.
could imagine at the very least with King Boo versus Gengar, you could have like a haunted house thing. You could have maybe like Ghastlies and Haunters, and have like other types of boos, and just like make it, I guess, kind of like what Scooby versus Courage is, having to go through like a haunted house. I can imagine it at least being a fun fight. I just can't imagine King Boo's analysis or Gengar's analysis particularly striking my interest, I guess.
At the very least, with King Boo, right, there is like a story there. Like, he does stuff. There's stuff that is done by King Boo. Gengars, they're just like a species that go around doing shit, but it's like inconsequential goblin nonsense, which, like, there comes a point where I just gotta wonder, what is the intrigue
I mean,
in an analysis?
you say that. One of the Pokedex entries, I think, in Sun and Moon, is like if you feel the temperature in the room drop 20 degrees, there's a Gengar in your shadow. You cannot run. Give up.
What if you're Shikamaru?
It, uh, well, I mean, if you Shikamaru, I don't know if he can get a ghost out of his shadow. I think if he tried to shadow possess Gengar, he would just
Yeah, but
shadow
like
sneak through
Shikamaru
it and then get his soul.
What if Shikamaru just scales higher than a Gengar? And Gengar comes out to hurt him and he just punches it in the face and it just goes wah.
I don't know. I don't know if he does. I don't know how strong Shikamaru is, honestly.
I believe his shadow like thing does restrain like a peak Naruto or something. I've heard something like that, but I don't know about like his physical body. To me, this one's kind of a whatever. Because I would like to see if King Boo was going to get a thing. First of all, he is going to be in Bowser Eggman, but obviously he's barely going to be in it. But I just like, why not put King Boo against a character who like has a story too?
I could see at least like a Mega Gengar and like maybe G Max Gengar being cool to include.
At that point, like, do it as a DBX. Then
honestly, as a Halloween DBX, it could be cool.
Yeah. We have Venom versus Jackie Estacado. I think it was.
Yes, Estacado.
The Darkness, which
AKA the Darkness from the Darkness.
Visually kind of neat, thematically kind of cool. The Darkness can create a universe, and Venom is Venom. That's where my problem lies. The Darkness is genuinely closer to the level of fellow unfair Venom matchup combatant Spawn.
Yeah.
In fact, it's probably
I could see that, but like Spawn. Honestly, like Venom is able to fucking trade blows with Heralds enough that it's like fucking. Even if he would still lose, I could honestly see them making an argument for him being comparable to Jackie.
But like at that point, the problem is you're going to be saying, well, then Spider-Man is also a Herald and stuff like that. Because like it's a case where it does happen, but it's so much less consistent than them just getting folded by Heralds. Like they use that fucking Juggernaut scaling thing as if that entire scene wasn't Juggernaut just easily destroying Venom while putting literally zero effort in, and Venom only surviving because he has really good regeneration. Which, like, what a fucking argument to make.
Mm-hmm.
It's like scaling Shao Kahn to a laser he can't dodge. It's ridiculous. I'm never gonna
that'd be silly.
never gonna let go of that. I just feel like just do Jackie versus Spawn at that point, because you can have like the street tier lower level stuff that the two have done, and then escalate it to being a bit more interesting. And also, does Venom really fucking need to come back? Like, yes, he's had 2 episodes, and in both of them he was just black carnage and buff. But, come on. They're just gonna do that again.
I've never been the biggest Venom fan, personally.
Because I'd love to say, well, there's no way they would... Like, that was so long ago last time Venom was used. Was it really that long ago? I mean, yeah, but I feel like it's after the point where Death Battle started to care more about characterization. And I just wonder, would they not just do that again with Venom? Just make him Carnage, but buff and black with wings? I mean, I guess Carnage already is kind of black. He's black and red.
Yeah. At least, he looks like Venom enough.
I just, like, to me, this is like, I don't need this on Death Battle, to be honest.
No, it's not what I need, but it's not what I'd be mad at.
I wouldn't be mad at it, but yeah. All right, we have now this one.
I feel pretty whatever about it.
This one I didn't recognize because I'm not used to seeing them just as wolves. It's you wanted to go. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is David Kessler from American Werewolf in London versus Eddie Quist from The Howling. For those who don't know and are not versed in their, I guess, werewolf movies, within horror cinema, these two movies have the most legendary werewolf transformation scenes ever. If you haven't seen them, you should go check them out, unless you've got like a phobia of wolves or something. They are insane achievements of practical effects. Even to this day, they look really impressive. And I think there's a neat contrast between the two, in that David was a pretty chill guy, and still is a pretty chill guy, who got forcefully turned into a werewolf and is horrified at the prospect of becoming a man-eating monster. Meanwhile, Eddie is a serial killer who very openly embraces his role as a werewolf and uses it to murder women, and thus there's I guess the duality of man. There's two werewolves inside you. One is the nicest guy you'll ever meet. The other's a serial killer.
You could argue it's pretty much a hero versus villain matchup. And if you're a big Lycanthrope fan like Donovan, I'm sure you'd love this matchup. Did this come to your mind
hate werewolves
because of In Search of Darkness? Because you told me that not long ago you was watching that, and in that they have a lot of discussion comparing the two, like the films.
Now, I don't think it was what initially brought the idea to my mind, because I think I had considered it before.
It's
then
pretty obvious.
I was watching In Search of Darkness. I was watching In Search of Darkness, and they were talking about it, and I'm like, well, hey, that could be something. Maybe that's a matchup. And then it's kind of just been stewing in my brain since. Here's a shout out to Create Unknown. If you haven't checked out In Search of Darkness, go do that if you're a horror fan. And look out for their In Search of Darkness, the 90s, which is coming out. It's going to be horror documentaries featuring a bunch of cool people about horror movies in the 90s and the culture, the politics, the making of, the special effects, the whole 9 yards.
Then they're going to do In Search of Darkness 2000s, and they're going to start talking about this is the rise of fucking shitty ghost movies, which had pretty much no artistry half the time.
And I believe they also did or are working on one for horror video games.
Yeah, yes, I remember that. I remember hearing something like that.
But yeah, you guys should go check it.
I can't wait for the segment where they compare Resident Evil and Silent Hill, because that's like a pretty fucking important comparison to make. For me as well, I'd always
Oh yeah,
thought
for
of
sure.
David versus Eddie. Like, it's always been like a matchup idea, but it just kind of I just kind of forgot about it for a while, and then watching A Search of Darkness, I went, oh yeah, I like that one, don't I? Oh, that's exactly what happened with Gremlins versus Critters, where it was like, that's a cool one, I like that, and then I forgot about it, and then they bring up the comparison in that, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that matchup, that was kind of neat. But I'm just gonna put this in the top.
I think it's also funny. I think it's also funny that it's a quadrupedal versus a bipedal werewolf.
Yeah, I'm putting it at the top. I really like that. Donovan's gonna love seeing a lycanthrope die.
Well, but then I have to see one win as well. So
Yeah, but think about it. Shut up. All right, we have the next one: John Constantine versus Rido. I like this one.
I,
Yeah.
I do too. I think I thought of a really interesting way for the fight to end, which I know is a fun place to go the second we bring it up. Uh, Constantine has a thing in his arsenal that's a little book of matches that he can blow out to make a wish on. A match is so powerful they could take away God Swamp Thing's powers, which, if you know anything about how strong Swamp Thing usually is absurd. And I think it would be really cool if Rido's got him like pretty much dead to rights. He's got him on the ground. He's about to put him down. Constantine pulls out a match and he acts like he's gonna just light a cigarette, and then he blows out the match and makes a wish. Rido's like, "What did you just do?" And he transfers all of the different like contracts and beefs that he has with different demons onto Rido, and Rido just gets fucking pulled apart and dragged into hell.
That'd be cool. I don't know who wins because I see a lot of back and forth. There's part of me that's fully expecting, right? This gets announced, and then people start going on and on about how, oh, Constantine's absolutely going to stomp, because they don't know anything about Rido, and what they do know about Constantine is that there's this one video with millions of views where the thumbnail says, "Power be on God," and they're like, oh, obviously Constantine's got to win. And then either it comes out and it's like it's really fucking close, or it comes out and Rido actually wins, and people make a fuss about it because they've never read a Constantine comic. Or played.
I think the biggest argument for Rido winning is that you can honestly argue their scale pretty similar, but Rido has more ready access to a lot of his powers because he keeps them either in like vials or in his gun, or is able to just cast spells himself. While Constantine can do some of that, there are a lot of spells he has quick access to, or Constantine, so rather. There are a lot of spells he has quick access to, and a lot of pieces of equipment that he has quick access to. But a lot of his stronger stuff requires a lot of setup, or is circumstantial, or requires items that he may not readily have on him in most scenarios.
I think the other argument you could make is that Rido just physically is at that level. Constantine is not generally portrayed as physically on par with some of his magic. So, like, Rido is physically really fucking strong. Constantine's not quite there. That's another, like, big advantage Rido has, at least from what I know. And the other thing is, I don't know how much I buy into the idea of, let's say that Constantine can just summon Swamp Thing and use him, at which point, okay, what? That's just a completely different character. And I would say the same for, like, can Rido, like, I've not played Rido's games. Maybe he can just summon Shin Megami Tensei Lucifer. But that just sounds kind of
there's a pretty high likelihood. But also, to be fair, Scarlet Witch versus Zatanna had a similar thing.
That's true.
With Superman fucking punching Scarlet Witch out of that card.
Yeah. I'm just gonna put this matchup at the top though. It's a really cool matchup. I still kind of prefer Constantine versus the Doctor, but I'm not the kind of person who thinks that you can't have two goated matchups for one character, because this is also really cool. And one of Rido's moves is the cool cat catchphrase, so like, how can I not love it?
No comment.
One of his moves is called Boogie Woogie. It's completely useless. I never use it. Because every time, the one time I played Shin Megami Tensei 3, I went out of my way to make sure I had Rido, because I was playing the one that had Rido and not Dante. And I never used Boogie Woogie. Never bothered. Never needed it. But it's so funny that it's called that. Like, I need to know, is that the name is that like a movie has in his games? Or is that something that Dante had that they just went, fuck it, it'll just give him the same name for the movie, who cares? Because it is very Dante coded.
That's Toto's curse technique in Jujutsu Kaisen is called
awesome.
Boogie Woogie as well.
Best character in JJK. Alright, we have Chucky versus, I swear to God, that's Springtrap and not Plush Trap.
It is. It's Springtrap from FNAF World.
Are you sure? You sure it's not Spring Bonnie? Yeah, let me check.
Probably Spring Bonnie, but...
No, it's not Spring Bonnie.
I mean, worst case scenario,
Right. Spring Bonnie has the bow tie.
Worst case scenario, I upset FNAF fans, which is a win in my book.
Okay, it is Adventure Springtrap. Okay. What if you upset Soul? He's so sensitive. He'll get so mad at you. He'll be like, Donovan, you slightly pissed me off, and now I'm already over it. Because that's actually what he sounds like if you don't know.
He would summon a large boulder and crush me to death with it.
You'll live. That
probably.
Soul can't do that because it'd be a cloud dispersing feat, and he would give himself scaling. He can't do that. So Chucky versus Springtrap. That's true. I really like this one, like thematically, and I think the vibe is really fun. I'm not sure how the fight is gonna work out, just considering, you know, the size disparity here.
Yeah, I think like this matchup's got just about everything going for it. It's just fuck Springtrap. I'm sick of looking at him. I'm tired of this motherfucker being in versus. I hate him.
Yeah, I mean, we say that there are 3 Springtrap matchups on here. Even without Junko's Springtrap, he's got the most on the list. I
won't deny his proclivity, but like,
that's a horrible way to put it. I'm gonna put this one in sure enough because like I like it enough. I'm just not sure how I feel on like the fight. And also, this is a case where like I know what I just said about Constantine and his matchups. And yes, it is pronounced Constantine, even though Constantine sounds so much better. With Constantine, Raido and the Doctor, matchups I both love and I both would like to see. With Chucky, there's Chucky Slappy, which is coming up, which I think is cool and I would like to see. And then there's this one, which I don't care to see. And it's a case of, why do this when there's Chucky Slappy? Because unlike with Constantine, it's not 2 matchups I'd like to see, it's just 1 matchup I'd like to see and 1 matchup that is also physically there.
It sure is a matchup.
Now we have the goated Wolfgang versus Raptor.
Skylander?
Yes.
I mean, Lord Raptor's pretty based, but
Wolfgang,
I don't know. Of all Skylanders,
he's
that goes both ways. Of all Skylanders and all Darkstalkers to see on Death Battle, these are definitely not the top of either list.
No, Wolfgang's not even technically a proper Skylander. He's like a villain that you can capture and trap team, and then he becomes like an instructor in Imaginators. He's not like a true member of the Skylanders. He's pretty cool. I like him. I would say if you're gonna do a Skylanders villain, just fucking do Chaos. Just honestly, because he does all the shit, and he's the fun one with the personality. Wolfgang's cool, but I'm not sure I'd really go for him, unironically. There are much funnier random Skylanders characters you could put in, like, do fucking, like, Eyebrawl, because that's like, okay, it's a character, sure enough.
Yo, Eyebrawl versus Dusclops.
I like that it's specifically Dusclops. It's not the fully evolved one, because who gives a shit about Dusknoir?
Well, it's a Dusclops holding an light, which is objectively better.
That's what I was referring to when I said Dusclops is stronger. Yeah, he's just Just give him that, and Dusk Noir did buff the line, but
Fucking,
only in the sense of letting Dusclops use an Eviolite.
Fucking, they're already using a Skylander this season anyway.
That is technically true. I had to take a moment to think about that. I was like, nah, yeah, it's Bowser, isn't it? I was like, yeah, technically.
Yeah.
But technically, we are getting a Skylanders character.
Yeah, Bowser's in Skylanders,
Did you know?
but he's pretty fun in that game.
The model that they use for Spyro in Crash vs. Spyro is actually a fan model made for a mod that turns Spyro in Skylanders into classic Spyro.
I mean, that's pretty fair because Jesus Christ, Skylander Spyro.
I really like him because he's so fucking ugly, but he's easily, I think, the worst design of the three main Spyros. I find him charmingly ugly.
It's weird because like as a kid, I didn't have much of a frame of reference for what Spyro was supposed to look like. I just grew up on the original Skylanders. And I was like, yeah, that's what Spyro looks like. And then when I finally got exposed to like the rest of the franchise, I'm like, oh, this is a pretty charming design. And then it would be a while before I interacted with Skylanders again. And then I went back to Skylanders 1. I'm like, oh, ew.
Yeah.
Why does he look like
Classic
that?
Spyro's charming. Legend Spyro actually kind of looks cool. And then Skylander Spyro looks like a fucking pug as a dragon. And like, I think that's ugly cute.
Yeah.
But also, it's the first word there is ugly. I like it, but like it's not good.
It's super weird looking. Anyway, I'm
when are we gonna
putting
get
this
some cool
in,
Gil Grunt matchups?
Don't know.
Can we get Gil Grunt versus Abe Sapien from Hellboy, please? Thank you. As if Abe Sapien doesn't have a better matchup from...
I don't like it. I don't like Abe. He scares me.
I really like Abe, but also, yes, he would be perfect on this. There's a fucking character... I'm trying to remember the fucking animes from, who's just designed after Abe Sapien. Fuck. Oh my god. I didn't watch past season 1 of the anime, but I really liked it. Oh my god. It's going to piss me off the whole time. I'm Googling random things connected to it. Just to see if I can find him, like at least the main character. Okay, so looking up Blue Eye anime like character definitely didn't help. Wait, I think I remember. Oh. God, please tell me I'm correct. Please.
Every like other image of Abe, from like official artwork at least, is him just fucking arising from the shadows of like the deep ocean, and that's just not. It's not a very comforting image. I don't like the deep ocean. There's too many worms.
That sounds like something you'd say, yeah. That's a very you.
Yeah, if you'd believe it, it's something I did say.
Yeah. God, what's his name? I'm just like stun locking the viewers in this like loop of just hearing me say, who is his fucking name? Who is his fucking name? It's the guy from Blood Blockade Battlefront. It's the guy from Blood Blockade Battlefront who just looks like Abe Sapien, but with like a spikier head. If you know, you know.
Oh, fucking, I don't know, I haven't... Yeah, I know that's Night Owl that made that, but I don't... That's all I know.
I like the first season. I never watched past it. I was like, yeah, this Blood Blockade Battlefront looks cool, action's cool, pacing's kind of shit, but like it's fun enough. And then I just never got around to watching the other seasons.
You pretty much just described the Night Owl story, yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna put this in whatever, because unlike you, I do know them both. And I'm like, it's whatever. I mean, it's probably better than Raptor versus Brook, just because, you know, Brook is a character with stuff going on, and Raptor really isn't, as far as I'm aware. You can comment on that. That's not on here. If you guys want, I can put that on here.
I mean, Raptor's got a story you can cover. He's got a little bit of stuff going on. If you can cover any
I
other
guess if you
Darkstalker,
if
you
I
can
guess
cover
they did cover John Talbane, who's
Raptor.
probably got about as much stuff. So you know, no, fair enough, fair
Yeah.
enough.
Like Talbane's a little more relevant, but like, yeah,
I mean,
Raptor
Lord
should be.
Raptor, I think he's cooler. I think he's a lot. He's voiced by my guy Scott McNeil at one point. The man, the myth, the legend.
I imagine in the American cartoon.
I don't remember which one, but probably.
Sounds the most
Wait,
likely.
no, it was not. It's not the American. It's the dub of the OVA, I think. Because I remember the animation looked like really dark and like almost gothic, the way you'd expect for Darkstalkers, like the sort of shading you see in like the Hellboy comics or in Hellsing, as opposed to like the really bright coloration of the cartoon. He might have been both though. He might have been both is the thing.
That OVA's got some pretty cool animation.
I'm pretty sure it is the OVA. But I think he was in both. I think he was Raptor in both. But in the cartoon, he's just kind of eh. But in the OVA, he sounds awesome. I think. Don't quote me on that. Because I don't remember.
I will.
Shut your bitch ass.
If people in the comments quote him on that,
I will consume you all.
Cell?
Yes. I did a quick Google just to check. I was correct. He voices Raptor in both. Just he's much better in the OVA.
Okay.
And also Lord Raptor being Australian is really funny. I don't know if he's meant to be.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. I mean, he largely seems like an Iron Maiden reference.
Yes, famous Australian band Iron Maiden.
Well, you're Australian and you like Iron Maiden.
I fucking love Iron Maiden. Lord Raptor is a zombie formerly known as the Rockstar of Death and a mass murderer.
Okay, no.
Okay. Yeah, he is nationality Australian. Hold on. So when I was talking about how there's like no Australian fighting game characters, I didn't realize Lord Raptor was... I'm going to put this in top tier now, because actually...
Lord Raptor is like the most U-coded character, because he's a big fan...
He's a metalhead.
He's a big fan of Iron Maiden. He's Australian.
An Iron Maiden reference who is Australian. And he's named after a dinosaur. I mean, not technically, but I'm going to take it as a raptor dinosaur as opposed to just the vague concept of a bird of prey.
Yeah.
And he's voiced by Scott McNeil. Nah, I'm putting that in top tier because like that's a Skylander, which is my silly thing, and a fucking Australian. This is awesome. I've learned more about Lord Raptor now, and now he's like, nah, this is awesome. Get him on Death Battle. Next Darkstalker, please, because I think it'd be funny. And also, I'm not like
it would be pretty funny.
A super big Darkstalker guy, which is mostly just because like playing it is not easy for me because I don't have it. I don't have a copy of it, and I don't want to emulate it because emulation requires me to use my computer, and I don't tend to play games with my computer because I spend all my time with the computer anyway. Next one's for you to.
You have a Switch. You should be able to get one of the Capcom Fighting collections.
Okay, but I only get games physically. Is there a physical release of that?
I think so. I don't know.
Then okay, I'll take a look.
Yeah, look into it at least.
I look up Darkstalkers and EB Games, and what comes up? Marvel Legends series Darkstar. Who cares?
Bev, do you happen to know off the top of your head what 210 centimeters is in feet?
What a fucking question. That's... Like that's 2.1 meters. 1 meter is roughly 3 feet. Roughly, not quite. So it'd be around 6 feet something.
6'10" apparently.
That's exactly what I said. Yeah.
That won't be relevant. That won't be relevant until later in the recording.
I'm fucking sure.
I just went ahead and checked.
So
Anyway, next matchup is Tomie versus the Cat-Eyed Boy. For those in the audience not aware, Tomie is a character created by Junji Ito, and the Cat-Eyed Boy is a character created by Kazuo Umez.
That is not the character. Tomie is not the one that people are less likely to know here.
I was describing both of them.
She has probably more movies than any character on this list. Aside from maybe
that's true.
The Sadako and Kayako. I don't know how many movies they have. And Freddy and Jason. But she's
I don't know how much of this viewer base is likely to have seen those.
That's true, but like she's in the upper echelon. I'm just trying to take a look. So who could be on par or better? Freddy.
Shaggy. Shaggy's absolutely in more movies.
Shaggy's absolutely in more. Shaggy might have the most on this overall. No, even if you count the Hulk as just the Hulk in general, then probably still Shaggy.
Sarah Connor's maybe?
I don't think so. Like, there's just less Xenomorph movies because there's what like 8 to 10 Tomie films. Because that's absolutely how much was necessary when all of them are shit. Well, I mean, the first one's okay, but like there came a point where I just went, you know what? That's enough of this.
Yeah. Anyway,
there's literally 8 to 10. There's 9.
Tomie and the Cat-Eyed Boy were created by Junji Ito and Kazuo Umez, who are the two like absolute pillars of the horror manga. There is nobody else that comes close to either of them, and both of these characters revolve around. Tomie will typically find people, they will fall madly in love with her, and then through just her presence, horrible supernatural things will happen to them, and they'll die. And then the Cat-Eyed Boy will move into people's attics and live with families. And then through just his presence, horrible supernatural things will happen to them, and they will die.
Tomie is also really fucking gross because, like, if you kill her, you won't actually. She'll just be back. I believe there is a point where she is reduced to ashes and she just regrows. Like, someone inhales the ashes and she just regrows inside of them. Which is vile,
yeah, there's a point where some of her hair... There's a point where some of her hair gets into somebody's brain and it fucking crushes their brain and creates a Tomie out of it. And then there's a point where some of her blood falls onto some like inanimate objects and they all turn into Tomies. She's real body horror, and then the Cat-Eyed Boy is more like is more like supernatural things type horror, like cryptids, yokai type stuff. But I think this matchup could have a pretty cool vibe to it.
I think it's neat. I don't know if I put it in absolutely just because I'm not sure how Death Battle would actually handle the fight.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it in sure enough for now. There is a later matchup that's in the supernatural Japanese stuff spectrum that I would say they should do first, especially to gauge how they would handle the tone. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Casper versus Slimer, which I never thought of before, but that's kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, these are, like, at least within Western culture, two of the most popular ghosts. And two uncharacteristically friendly ones at that. Slimer's gross, but he's not typically, like, malicious, I don't think.
His main, like, big stuff comes from the Real Ghostbusters series, where he is just a member of the Ghostbusters, just a mostly useless one. Because, you know, he can't really use the... I mean, he does put on a proton pack at some point.
Yeah, this makes sense.
it's really stupid because there's like a point in the series where he starts being the one to set the ghost traps, which like, maybe don't have him be the one doing that. Just an idea.
I think it's funny too that you could reference the live action Casper movie in which they call the Ghostbusters. They call one of the Ghostbusters, I think specifically.
Dan Aykroyd.
Was it Ray Stantz? I think.
Yeah,
it was.
It's Aykroyd's character. Who are you gonna call?
Dan Aykroyd's character. Yeah, someone else. And if Casper's guys are scary enough to scare him away, then Slimer might be out of his depth. But this is a very Ducko-coded matchup.
This is a very Ducko matchup. Was this one of the ones that Ducko submitted?
Yeah,
I don't recall. There was one that I know for a fact they submitted. Because it's so goddamn stupid that it could only be from Ducko, and I say that in the most complimentary way I can.
Yeah. But no, I have quite a lot of nostalgia for both Ghostbusters and Casper, so I'm down for this one.
When I say in the most complimentary way I can, the only person that I would completely trust to come up with a season of not death battles for us to do would be Ducko. Ducko's the one person that I would just absolutely go, you could definitely make a not death battle season, and we would be all for it. Because Ducko's unique, and in the best way. I'll put this at the top. I think this would be really fun. I think, especially because, like, let's think about the last time they did, like, a goofy Western series Halloween episode, and it was really fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also really be curious, like, where the stats would end up for them. Like, especially Casper, because I have an idea, generally, like, what happens in Ghostbusters. Don't know for Casper. I'd really want to find out. So there's also intrigue, like, in the versus side of things for me. Fucking Universal Casper coming out.
Yeah, for sure.
The next one we have is Merkava versus Arakune. I really genuinely like this, though it's not like they have much to talk about for an analysis is the thing.
Yeah, I think going over their they have enough of like personal stories to cover, and then
the thing I like
going over just how fucking awful and weird they are could cover a good amount of it.
The thing I like about Merkava is that he is directly connected to like the very like core of the lore of Under Night. Like he is the monster thingy that all the in-births beat the crap out of, except he's one that talks and speaks and goes, "Oi, fuck off, mate." That's exactly what he says. That's a quote from Under Night. Trust me. And so, like, his analysis can just be made up of, like, a section where they talk about how all the mechanics work in Under Night, because they are directly tied to his existence. And that would also make future Under Night episodes probably a little easier to do, because then you can kind of gloss over some of that, because it's more focused on in this, and just talk about the main points with the others, so people could be confused, but if they've watched previous death battles, they won't be as confused. And also, I just like Merkava.
Yeah, and
I
also,
like Arakune.
Yeah, Arakune's got enough ties to stuff like The Boundary or Sector 7 or like Relius, with like these characters that are pretty integral to the major story that I think Arakune's got more than enough to cover for himself. And he has quite a bit of abilities and other shit you could go over. I think
I'm not sure on the Under Night immortality thing, because having played the games, it doesn't really feel like it's ever the way people try to explain it as. But I would use it for Merkava just so this fight can sound fair. Because otherwise, like, Arakune probably just, like, in attack potency scales way too high. And if Merkava doesn't have that immortality, well, he's just gonna fold.
Yeah, doesn't his astral finish just cover the planet in bugs?
He is very strong. If you use the immortality, it just becomes a matter of, like, who can eat the other first, at which point Arakune's entire body is his mouth, while Merkava has a mouth. So Arakune just kind of wins on contact, but by eating him instead of actually attacking him, which is not going to be Arakune's first move. Because, like, I don't think Arakune can... Because the thing with Merkava is that he eats your EXS or your existence. I don't think Arakune can survive his entire existence being consumed.
I mean, have we ever seen him survive attacks from fucking Hakumen's sword?
Survive attacks is one thing. Survive being completely obliterated is another. It's a case where, like, characters in Undernight can survive being hit by Hyde's sword, but that doesn't mean they can survive being killed by Hyde's sword, which, like, destroys your existence.
Yeah, I'm saying that, like, if they could, like, resist the effects of the Time Killer, like, if it's more or less just, like, getting hit by a sword to them, maybe they'd have some kind of resistance to what Merkava does.
Maybe, but I think that it would just come down to the whole thing of, like, if Merkava completely consumes them, just eats every bit of Arakune, it would probably just be over, and Merkava would win. But it's a lot easier for Arakune to eat Merkava first, and Merkava also cannot survive being consumed and broken down by Arakune. So, because Merkava trying to eat Arakune...
Merkava, when he tries to take a bite of Arakune, he just gets a mouthful of centipedes and sludge.
I was just imagining, like, the Thing, like, when the defibrillator scene, but instead of a defibrillator, it's Arakune's head. Or it's Merkava's head. He's, like, going down for a big gulp, and then Arakune's, like, entire side just opens up into a bigger mouth. So Merkava just, like, falls in by accident. He's like, ah! It'd be funny. I like this matchup a lot. I'm putting this at the top. I don't care what anyone says. I really do like this one. It's probably like one of my ideals for an Undernight introduction, just because Merkava has enough to talk about, but not so much that you wouldn't be able to save time to completely discuss the mechanics of Undernight, which would be very important for the episode. Alright, you can go for this one.
Alex Russo versus Sabrina Spellman. Technically, I think Sabrina debuted in her Archie comics series, but the Sabrina the Teenage Witch sitcom is where most people would know her from.
Comic too. Not that it really matters.
Yeah. Wizards of Waverly Place, if you didn't grow up with it, was a Disney Channel sitcom. These are both teenage witches that get up to sitcom-y hijinks, and I think overall it would just be a pretty fun fight. I think it'd be cool to have... I wouldn't say Wizards of Waverly Place is an especially obscure series, as much as it's just not one that's been relevant in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I never see it talked about anymore, but I mean, it ran for what was it, like 4 seasons, something like that. Like, it ran for a bit. It's definitely lesser in being famous and iconic and beloved to Sabrina. I would say Sabrina is significantly more well known.
So, Wizards of Waverly Place ran for about 5 years over the course of 4 seasons. Yep.
Booyah! I was worried that I was wrong once you said 5 years. But, Sabrina is the one carrying these here. But that's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure also that, I know some people, like, I know our good friend Butter Samray has done a lot of research into, Wizards of Waverly Place scaling and whatnot. I'm sure there's a lot of spin-off material as well, given that it's a Disney property, that if you're counting, like, the comics and stuff for Sabrina, you could do the same for Alex Russo.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the comics are the main thing for Sabrina, but, like, for me, the funny thing I always remember is that when I was looking up this one speed feed everyone used of, like, Sabrina traveling across the galaxy in seconds, and I watched the whole episode. No, she did not. She did not do that. She traveled through a gateway. But what she did do was hold a star in her hands. So, you know, I feel like that's the feat maybe that should be brought up a bit more. The fact that a guy just plucked a star from the sky, gave it to her, and she held it and was like, oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so that's a thing that can just happen. And I'm pretty sure, like, shit gets higher. And, of course, if you want to use crossover scaling, she does also, like, she is way slower than Sonic, but she is able to use her magic, and it's fast enough that Sonic can't react to it in time. So while she's not as fast, her magic is. Don't do that, though. That would be stupid. But you could do that. You could do that. And it is pre-Genesis Wave as well. But don't do that. But you could, but don't do that. But you could, though. This one's another, like, top tier for me. I would really like to see this. I think this would be quite fun. For Halloween, I'm not as sure. But, like, in general, we're gonna have too many top tiers, I think.
Yeah, I mainly tossed it in here just for, like, the witch vibe and the fact that both spells typically, like, lean into Halloween-y things like your witches and your broomsticks and your cauldrons and your black cats
do we have to explain the horror element of every matchup? Because if we do, werewolves, occultism, it's a werewolf and a zombie, that one. Ghosts. Merkava and Arakune aren't really any specific horror thing, but just fucking look at them. Witches, Zalgo and Scarlet King being the mascots of cosmic internet horror. And I have to say that because you went with mascots of horror in general with Creepypasta and SCP, you get the very interesting matchup of Jeff the Killer versus SCP-682, and I'm not sure how much that one would work. Chucky and Springtrap are from horror things, your supernatural horror, ghosts again, and then, The Darkness is just like a very horror-esque series, and Venom is also very tied to, like, creepy stuff, just the way he's portrayed. Yeah. And Nemesis,
he's got a spider on him.
And Nemesis versus Magician coming up. They're just horror series.
Yeah. Speaking of, if the people at home are not familiar with Magician, he is from House of the Dead, which, for the uninitiated, a series of on-rail shooter arcade games about shooting zombies and bioweapons, and it's basically Resident Evil, conceptually. And I think, if you know it at all, outside of just the House of the Dead, like, mainline entries, you may know its spin-off Typing of the Dead, which is known not only for being a zombie on-rail shooter where you type to shoot them to help you learn keyboard typing, and they have weird keyboard-like Ghostbusters packs on their back. It has, the whole franchise really has legendarily bad voice acting, which you could say the same of some of the earlier Resident Evil games. And so, while I wasn't a fan of it in Mewtwo vs. Shadow, I think if Nemesis versus Magician happened and they made any amount of voice acting in it bad on purpose, but, like, make it, like, that right amount of campy, it could be really funny.
House of the Dead's also, like, super, like, culturally important. Like, it was very important. And I think it and Resident Evil were the ones that, like, brought zombies back to mainstream culture to an extent. And I think, isn't House of the Dead the one...
In the video game scheme, at least.
Well, no, because, like, House of the Dead also, like, introduced the whole, like, super fast running zombie, which, after House of the Dead came out, became a lot more popular as time went on. To the point where now you're as likely to see zombies running at full pelt as you are to see the Romero-style slow zombies. Because the running ones are scarier from a practical point of view, though they also look visibly a lot stupider. Plus, wasn't there, like, a remake of House of the Dead, like, a couple of years back? Like, it's not dead as a franchise. It's like... It's at least 2020. It's at least 2020, the remake.
Yeah, it's around, and I think I don't need to explain to anybody how.
Google it for me.
Fucking hold on.
Was it 2020?
Okay,
was it 2021?
hold on.
It wasn't 2023. It was earlier than 2023. It could be 22. It's not 2019. I refuse to believe it's 2019. It has to be 2020s. It's 2021.
2022.
I'm so smart. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I don't think I need to explain to anybody the relevance of Resident Evil right now.
I have to put it in top tier as well, because, like, these renders are the ones that I was paid to draw. And there you go. There you go. There they are.
Yeah.
And they look passable. And then we have Freddy Krueger versus It.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frederick versus
the dancing cloud.
Frederick versus a dehumanizing pronoun. Wait, you really have nothing to say to that?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
I I I think this match largely sells itself if you know what both of these characters are about.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I'll just put it in the top tier because we know it's probably happening at some point. Come on.
Fucking, we know our audience. You guys know what Freddy Wise is about.
Alright, we have... So this one, okay, I don't know how familiar you are with Boys Vert. This is Omori versus Room.
I know what an Omori is.
Okay, have you seen that video that came out during lockdown of like a hand-drawn guy like talking about all the good things that you can do during lockdown, and then it goes down to the basement and it transfers to this like strange real like photorealistic like triangle-headed guy? Have you seen that video?
I haven't, but the first image it conjured to mind was SpongeBob throwing another demon core down into the basement with Squidward.
Yeah, it's pretty much that. That's pretty much it.
That'll
So,
make sense to someone.
I really like Boys Vert. I really like Room. I think the aesthetic here is really cool. Problem: most people I know who are big Omori fans kinda don't feel comfortable with Omori in verses.
Fair.
And I think it just comes down to, while the person who really loves this matchup, and I hope that they have played Omori and it means a lot to them, if they're okay with it, that is fine. I don't have like a personal stake in this, but most of the friends I have who are familiar with Omori aren't comfortable with Omori being in verses, let alone on Death Battle. So I will have to put it in no, but I've got it here just so I can remind everyone I do know what Boys Vert is, I do like it, and I do really like Room. Literally just wanted to bring up, that's another not super popular thing that I of course know, but I haven't watched SpongeBob.
Oh, that's not like an actual thing from SpongeBob. It's a meme about.
Oh no, I'm just reminding everyone I've not watched. It's played
SpongeBob. like a 1950s horror movie. It's a meme that's played like a 1950s horror movie where SpongeBob opens the door to his basement. He's like, "I'm sorry, Squidward. Until you calm down, I have to add another demon core to your confinement." And Squidward's just like a fucking horrible body horror monster.
I'm just saying, I've not watched SpongeBob. But what I have watched is an analog horror series with less total combined views across all of its episodes than this video currently probably has on its own, within like a day of being up. So that's that's the extent that I have devolved into watching stuff that nobody cares about. And now we have Spinal versus Cervantes. So you know me, I'm a big fucking Soul Calibur guy. Fucking love Soul Calibur. Really like Cervantes. I think he's one of the most underused antagonists of the franchise. He deserved to do more. That said, he is still the main antagonist of the first game, and a relatively prominent antagonist for all the other games. And here he's fighting a guy who someone, while going super in depth, summed up all of the lore to me in about a paragraph.
Yeah, that someone was me, I'm pretty sure. Where basically, Spinal's relevance in every game, be it the old timeline or the first two games or the reboot, is just Spinal was either a gladiator or a pirate or both at some point in his life, died, and got resurrected as a skeleton to do someone's bidding, and he was really mad about it. And that's his involvement every time, whether he's revived by a gargoyle or a mummy or whatever fucking spooky creature decides to resurrect him once more. This is just an angry skeleton that does not want to be resurrected.
Meanwhile, Cervantes de Leon, he's got the whole thing, his big voyage in the first game is finding Soul Edge, is becoming technically the first nightmare of the series, though he's not technically Nightmare, just like Pyro Omega technically isn't. And, you know, he's doing his thing, he's killing a bunch of people, he's pillaging, plundering, then Safitia and Taki show up, and Safitia, like, kind of takes him on, but doesn't do well, then Taki helps out, and then with the blessing of the gods, Safitia is able to break Soul Edge, without using Soul Calibur, but, you know, Zeus and, like, Hephaestus probably came down with like, we'll give you a hand. So I think that's that's not digging into Soul Edge too much. And also it was split into two, so each half wasn't as strong. And then Cervantes dies, and then he comes back, and then he spends a very long time searching for Soul Edge. He's got his little story mode in Soul Calibur 6 where he's doing a bunch of stuff. He's got his whole, like, issues with Ivy. He's like, "Ear! Who?" And Ivy's like, "You bloody wanker." And all that. He came back to being a human at one point, which was never really properly explained, and then he stops being a human again because the timeline got reset. There's a lot going on with Cervantes de Leon, and not all of it makes perfect sense.
There are Soul Calibur and Killer Instinct matchups I prefer.
Yeah, I'll put this in sure enough. It is definitely a bit of a killer thing to me that, Cervantes has generally a lot of stuff going on and Spinal doesn't. Because when I was talking about how great this matchup is, I was under the assumption Spinal actually had a decent bit. My opinion definitely flip-flops. There are times where I'm like, it's not a big deal. And there are times where I feel it is a big deal. So it's definitely one where, like, my opinion will change probably depending on my mood. So on a better day, I might have put this in the top tier. I don't know.
Cervantes should fight that pirate from Monkey Island.
Cervantes should fight the main vocalist of Ailstorm. Jimmy McFucknugget, I think.
Sure.
His name is something like that. Alright, Ash Williams versus Juliet from Lollipop Chainsaw. I mean, I get it.
I wonder how many people remember Lollipop Chainsaw.
Me.
It's a fairly cool game. It's obviously got a lot of love for the zombie genre with the bite that the Devil May Cry era of hack and slash games brought with it. And Juliet's a fun enough character. I could see this fight being a lot of fun, but I do think some of Ash's other options sound equally as fun.
Always be fighting for Ash Williams versus Finn Shepard from Sharknado. I will always be fighting for that because that's just fucking perfect to me. This is cool though. This is cool. I like this. What about the severed sentient, like her boyfriend's head versus Mimiya from the new God of War games? What about that as a matchup? Wouldn't that be fun? Just their severed heads on the table.
That's rap battle material if I've ever heard it.
Get to that, someone. I'll put this in sure enough. Like, I get it. It's cool. Probably not my go-to, though. Yeah. Speaking of maybe not my go-to, we have the Imposter versus the Thing. And, let's just talk about it at the same time, because we use the exact same images. Right after that is the Thing versus the Blob.
Yeah, I think those are the only repeating renders. I could be wrong. I haven't really checked in depth.
The Springtrap ones are really close, but they're technically different.
Yeah, I went out of my way that if I had two matchups for characters, I would try to use different renders for them to keep everything here looking unique. And then right next to each other is the same render of the Thing.
I randomly scrambled these. I randomly scrambled these without looking, and the two Thing matchups ended up right next to each other.
I'm still gonna blame you.
Your mother.
The Imposter obviously has the Fall Guy bean, which is fun. Especially that like they're both still getting new content, and so like every couple months or so, one of them will get an insane buff, and so that it just keeps stacking. And I do hope it happens someday because it's really funny. I also think it would be really funny to do Imposter versus Among Us because I'm I'm typically not a big fan of just insert random Pokemon, but in this instance, it's funny.
When are we gonna get Electrode versus the D&D Mimic though? Seriously.
With the Thing versus the Blob, I don't know how that would go as a fight.
Me neither.
I'm sure if you got creative enough with it, you could make something work. But
it should be the Blob versus the Stuff. If you're not Max and you know what the stuff is, congratulations. If you are Max and you know what the stuff is, of course you do.
I do.
Or you.
It's like yogurt or something, I think.
Yeah, it's the cum version of the Blob.
Yeah.
That sounds so much grosser than I feel even
Uh,
saying that out loud.
but no, I could see maybe it being like people getting picked off by the blob and the thing throughout the course of the fight, and then the blob keeps trying to go for the thing, but it keeps like disguising itself as other shit. But that said, the blob's not very picky about what it eats, and so like
Yeah.
I don't know. I I think you can do better.
There is a
I
part of me that
honestly,
still mostly
because I
likes,
like these weapons as much as they facilitate a really good body horror and they facilitate a lot of really horrifying concepts. I don't know if I need either of them in a death battle particularly.
my thing with the thing, I still kind of would like to see the Thing versus Tetsuo the Iron Man.
I could see it.
For these, I think the Blob versus the Thing, I feel like kind of whatever, because if they weren't literally called the Blob and the Thing, how many people would actually think about this matchup? Like if the Blob was named like Jeremy, would people really have this matchup on? I mean, first of all, that would be hilarious, but like, how many people would still think about this matchup and be like, yeah, I want to see that? Like, there would obviously still be people, but you know, I think there's a decent chunk of the appeal is just the name, the Blob versus the Thing.
Uh
And of course, like the body horror stuff, but the Blob versus Jeremy would definitely not get as much appreciation from the community.
nah, definitely not.
Someone go make a thumbnail for Jeremy Cinema Sins versus the Thing. Go. Imposter versus the Thing, I'll put a bit higher because I think the
Anyway,
fight would definitely be a
I'm
little more
feeling
interesting. But
I'm feeling a solid whatever for imposter versus thing, and I'm gonna honestly say no for thing versus blob.
I'm gonna move
I'm just
imposter.
not feeling it.
Safe tier. And then we have Mysterio versus Scarecrow. And if you don't understand this one and why this is horror, yes you do. Shut up.
Uh, I mean, I feel like I think I said my piece on this before. I think it retreads a bit of the same ground that Freddy versus Pennywise would. Obviously, it is different characters and technically like different means for it. But
I'll still put it up because like of the Marvel
I don't know.
DCs left, it's the like one of the only debatable street tier matchups. The only other one I can think of being Sandman versus Clayface. That one honestly could fit here too, just given some of the shit they do.
Yeah.
Oh man, Man Thing versus Swamp Thing could have been on here.
It's okay. It could have been, but you didn't put it here.
That would go in top tier if anyone's wondering. I still fucking love that matchup. All right, we have a random Predator versus the Meta. I don't need to see another random Predator. I'm gonna be honest. Meta from.
I don't need to see the Meta again.
Yeah. The thing is, I would be okay with it because the Meta
of every fucking character in Death Battle history, I do not need to see the Meta again.
Yeah, I'm a bit more receptive to the Meta because that is a character. Right? Like, that is a character. As opposed to a random.
I mean, when the comparison is just
How the hell. Through random.
Yeah, when the comparison's John Yautja, that's one thing, but just in a vacuum, like of any Death Battle character to pull back, the meta is not like it's near the bottom of the list.
Right, I guess that's fair because the Predator isn't a character. How the hell through random selection did a Yautja and a Xenomorph end up right next to each other? I just gotta ask.
I mean, the odds are 1 in 128.
Who cares? Yeah, I'm not up to see random like Scarface specifically versus the Meta. That's something else because that is a character versus a character, and I would like to see the Yautja come back with a character from the franchise, because there's a fuck ton of them. I've got Scar currently in the thumbnail. I believe that I've got there. I believe it's Scar. and he's one of my favorites. But nah, I'm not feeling this one. I think the time for a Yauch episode is kind of
no if it's 64 possible things. 1 in 128 would be the odds of rolling the same thing twice, I think.
okay.
The odds of these two specifically placing right next to each other in this, I don't know how to calculate. Someone that's better at statistics, tell us in the comments.
Alright, we have the Xenomorph versus Vakani from Vita Canis. Now, this is one I kind of talked myself into liking. I don't know what that is. So the whole thing here is that the Vita Canis are a random species of alien that have a really elaborate evolutionary cycle to them, including giant ones, warrior ones that, or not really warrior ones, but like just like human-sized ones that are closer to like the standard drone Xenomorph. They have big ones, they have little ones, they have weird ones. It would kind of be like a matchup between the overall Vakani and the overall Xenomorph, down to the fact that they begin as like some small, pretty asinine little piece of shit that isn't really up to much. The Facehugger is definitely a bit more intimidating than the Crawl, but that's the matchup. I said my piece, my problem with the Xenomorph still applies. At least with the Vakani, unlike the Arachnids from Starship Troopers, they're also not really an organized race, kind of like the Xenomorphs, where they're just kind of all doing their own thing. Season 2 of Vita Canis will probably elaborate on that. But that leads to my main problem with the matchup I currently have. There's just not a lot of Vita Canis. There is still probably enough to do an analysis for already, especially because the Mimic does show up a lot, more than the others at least. But I would probably wait on it. But this is one where I could see like a Xenomorph hive and like a collective of Vakani who all like gather around a monolith. So the monolith can join the fight, because it's big. It would be interesting to see a 120-meter tall meat monster getting swarmed by Xenomorphs. But I can't put it on top tier, despite how much I do like it, because it's got that problem where Vita Canis needs to do more as a series and have more story. And probably more feats. But I do like this one. It is probably my favorite for the Xenomorphs, which is saying objectively nothing, because there are other matchups I just don't like at all.
Fair.
And then we have Judge versus Sans. I'm less sure on this one really counting, but Sans is a skeleton, and Judge is a cat. He's not a black cat, which is the Halloween-y one, but he is a cat.
He's kind of a Cheshire cat, which is not an uncommon sight in the Halloween season.
It's also not really. I wouldn't count. Why didn't I put Saint Peter versus Crom Cruach, the original matchup that caused Halloween as we know it?
I think you could make a case that there are definitely horror themes in Undertale, particularly in the genocide route. I mean, even in the pacifist route and the neutral ending, like with the amalgams, with just the entirety of Kara, with like Photoshop Flowey, with a lot of aspects of that game. And then Off is, a pretty standard RPG for most of it. And then, without spoiling anything, once the big twist comes, it takes a more horror-themed approach.
Wow. Anyway, yeah, I'd really like to see this. Get more indie games on Death Battle, please. Shovel Knight was not the downfall of that episode, trust me. I think that's really all you need. Alright. And I guess, like, equally quick as a segment is going to be Devilman versus Etrigan.
This is me. That's my matchup. That's my favorite matchup. And I'm sure everybody fucking watching this video has heard of it by now. But I make a habit of it every year around October to read the original Devilman manga, and if you at home have it, you should. Very good.
What if
basically these two came out? What if what?
No, you go ahead first.
Okay. Basically, the rundown. If you don't know these two characters, they are dudes who become fused with demons and can take on their form and powers to fight other demons amongst whatever other foes. And as a bonus, depending on the source you read and what you count as their release date, they are anywhere from 1 month to 11 days apart in their release, which is I would imagine one of the closest debut gaps in Death Battle history, and pretty close for unrelated fictional characters in general.
I will say,
Um,
I think the only other
and,
matchup that goes down to days is Colex.
yeah, I think I guess if you wanted to do the matchup, Mickey Mouse and Popeye are a few months apart. If you're counting Steamboat Willie as the debut.
Which I believe that is not
Um,
actually. There's like stuff with Mickey before that that's not quite Mickey as we know him, but like I don't think you'd count that.
there's Plain Crazy, which does technically have Mickey, but that was like private theaters, I believe. Anyway, Devilman versus Etrigan Devilman's my favorite fictional character. Etrigan's one of my favorite comic book characters. There's a lot you could do with this fight. They both got like time travel powers and
Hmm.
teleportations and elemental stuff and all kinds of insane stories, and both of them have a lot of crossovers, and they've met a lot of wacky characters. And I want to at some point work on a project for this matchup, but that'll be well down the line when I've done the proper research I'd want to do for it, because I want to be as thorough as possible.
What if we put your other most wanted on here because Ronald McDonald is really fucking creepy?
Now, the counter argument I would put is that Ronald, at least as he became popularly like depicted, isn't that creepy unless you particularly don't like clowns.
Exactly.
The King was literally made to be creepy on purpose in his 2008 forward ad campaign.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would argue being creepy isn't quite the same thing as being like horror or spooky themed. Uh, you could make the argument, I guess, that the King did sell the Nightmare Burger, which was marketed as, yeah, if you eat this, it'll just give you nightmares, and people bought it.
Speaking of things that aren't scary at all, we have Jumbo Josh Bra versus Huggy Wuggy.
Honestly, just for the shit post, I wouldn't be mad at it.
Yeah. I like how those renders just look like perfectly matched for each other. Like the way their heads are tilted the exact same angle is honestly creepier than either of them and their games.
Yeah, it looks like Huggy Wuggy's about to turn around and look up at Jumbo Josh and be like, "Aw, shit," and then Jumbo Josh is just gonna fucking flatten him.
This says Major, he's right behind me, isn't he? Energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put this in sure enough because there is the factor that unironically the matchup is super one-sided. There's honestly not much you can do just because Jumbo Josh is so much bigger and stronger. Like I believe he is made up of atoms that have an infinite density. Like each atom of him is infinitely dense. So, like, what is Huggy Wuggy supposed to do here? Uh, and also maybe don't gas up a character from created by two people who made a video game about being a school shooter. Maybe that's just not something we should be like gassing up. But because of the funny factor here, and that it is also decidedly making fun of those creators and not laughing with them, yeah, sure enough. Why not? Can't put it in a low tier. Then we have Jack Frost versus the Ginger Dead Man.
We sure do. This would just be so stupid, and honestly, that's the fun of it.
There is a non-minuscule part of me that says, why don't you do 1997's horror movie Jack Frost, who doesn't look scary, against 1998's family movie Jack Frost, who looks fucking terrifying.
That would also be pretty funny.
But this on its own, yeah, I'm sure enough. There is a part of me that wants to see Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong as an episode, because for one thing, I know it would make Biff go, oh no, I can't believe they're doing that. But also, that's also really funny. And also, they don't really do much fighting in their movie, so, we have a Marvelous versus Decade situation. Just, the matchup isn't awesome. It's Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong.
Yeah.
Then we have Sonic EXE versus Red.
No thanks.
I have fallen off of this matchup a bit. I just don't want to see Sonic EXE. That's really just it. All right, we have Big Head versus Beetlejuice.
I like this one. I think it's fun.
This is fun playing into the movie and cartoon version of Big Head. Because while Beetlejuice does have plenty of its own horror stuff going on, comparatively to the original Mask comic, Beetlejuice would go, oh, that's maybe a bit much, mate. I don't know if I'd go that far.
I mean, honestly, it's not too dissimilar. It's just replace blood with fucking bugs and green shit.
I was just thinking of that one comic of Discord and Bill, where they're singing together, and then Bill's I can make this and that, and Discord's what the fuck? Why would you do that though? Yeah, you could, but mate, what, why? Did someone hurt you as a child? But yeah, this one's yeah. I don't know if I'd put it in absolutely, but sure enough, I like it. Actually, I'm gonna put it above because I don't think Jumbo Josh versus Huggy Wuggy deserves to have the same tier as that. You could argue the same for Cervantes Spinal, but I said my piece. Alright, we have Vampire Batman versus Zombie Spider-Man. This is obviously a vampire versus a zombie. This could have been Man-Thing versus Swamp Thing.
It is, and it's obviously Batman versus Spider-Man.
This could have been Man-Thing versus Swamp Thing, but instead, someone said Vampire Batman versus Zombie Spider-Man.
Yeah, not much to say about it, honestly.
I'm gonna be honest. Do I really care to see Zombie Spider-Man?
I don't.
Vampire Batman, from what I know, actually is kind of a neat version of the character. But, I don't know. This one's kind of whatever. I'm not going to put it in no, because there is a part of me that thinks a Marvel DC episode that's just decidedly unreasonably gory would be really funny. I know that there's a decent amount of blood in Hulk Doomsday. And it's not Marvel DC, but Shredder Samurai has a pretty gnarly ending. But there would be kind of an appeal to Marvel DC, but it's just completely bloodthirsty.
Yeah.
Alright, we have Freedom from Monument Mythos versus Daimajin from, Daimajin. I like this one a lot. I do really like this. Yeah, if I was gonna have one analog horror episode of Death Battle, it would be this one.
Yeah, I mean, you can further explain now, or you can wait until you talk about analog horror down the line.
I did talk about this in the video. This will probably come out before that video, but to explain it here, they're both obviously living statues with a big fuck off sword. They pretty much wake up to fight for their country, but the way they do that is by mindlessly slaughtering people, including people who probably don't actually deserve to be killed. And the only way they end up getting stopped pretty much ever, because they're pretty much invincible and don't die well, except the time Freedom did die, but the planet blew up, so you can't really blame it on that in that regard, is through a union, through happiness, Someone's like, no, don't do this, we're super kind, and we're going to show you a gesture of goodwill, and they're like, oh, how could I say no to that face? Come here. More or less, that's it. There's the funny thing where Daimajin is ridiculously stronger, but Freedom's sword also just kind of turns off durability. So it probably does come down to, like, speed and how they fight. I think it would be kind of cool if the way Freedom's Giza Glass blade works, if it, like, cut off Daimajin's arm, but because the arm was still active, he was able to use it and, like, do the thing where he turns into a fireball, but it's just the arm, and he, like, fireball punches Freedom from behind. That would be kind of cool. Yeah, I like it a lot. And, like, I really like Daimajin. And one of the official stats for Daimajin puts him at around 5-6 meters, which is as tall as the actual Statue of Freedom. So, obviously there is one where he's taller, there's one where he's, like, 20 meters. Don't use that one, you fucking idiot. The same reason for Optimus Gundam, they did not use the one time G1 Optimus was like 50 meters tall. There's a reason for that. So this works. I really like this. Bam. Top tier.
Yeah. I'm gonna pause progression real quick because I don't see it in here. To back up to the mask for a little bit. Another mashup I like for him is Rick Taylor from the Splatterhouse series, which, for those not aware, the Splatterhouse series is a series of originally side-scrolling beat-em-up games, and then its reboot was a hack-and-slash game a la God of War or Devil May Cry, that era. That pays homage to Western horror, mainly. And I think it's underappreciated, and I think that matchup's cool and could lean a lot more into the comics side of the mask.
And also the part where Rick and any of Big Head's wearers are kind of complete dweebs, and then they put on the mask, and like they start cheating and they start becoming really strong.
Yeah, I think it's also funny that Rick can get creative with how he tears people apart. But most of how he does it is still just through, like, weapons and brute force, where, like, the mask is all, like, cartoony and shit. So Mask is pulling out, like, all this absurd shit to try and beat Rick down, and then he just gets back up and just, like, rips him in half.
Yeah, I do like the idea of Rick just viscerally tearing the mask apart, and then he just kind of puts himself back together. He's like, oh, what was that? That was kind of rude.
Like, I can imagine Rick tearing off the mask's head or something like that, but it's actually a fake head, and then that head turns into a bomb.
Someone in the comments, take note of every matchup that we bring up that's not on this. Put the comment down, and I'll put them all in after the fact for anyone who wants to use the tier list on their own later. We have here Humbaba from the Epic of Gilgamesh versus Grendel from Beowulf, because I think this matchup is pretty cool. I don't want to see it on Death Battle.
You would.
But I really like it. Yeah, they're mythological monsters, but I'm putting it in whatever because goddamn, I do not need to see that on Death Battle. I just like the matchup in general. Speaking of matchups that don't need to be on Death Battle, for me personally at least, Jeddah versus Dash, or Dark Schneider. That's
yeah. I can't say. Well, no, I guess I do get the theme of them both being like powerful, like rulers / candidates for the throne of their equivalent of the demon realm, and them on their crusades to take it over and whatnot. Jeddah would get the shit kicked out of him by Dark Schneider, but that's true for most characters. I think Darsh has more interesting options, and I think Jeddah has some that play more into him.
The name Dark Schneider is. Like, Darsh is fine when you like shorten it that. Dark Schneider sounds so weird. I get it.
Yeah.
He's named after Udo, I believe. Udo Dirkschneider, who is a musician that I do like. There are several Udo songs I really like.
Yeah. Literally everything in fun fact for people who don't know, the series Darsh is from is called Bastard Heavy Metal Dark Fantasy, and it is, as you could surmise, a dark fantasy world where literally everything from the towns to the people to the spells that they use are named after different metal bands, from your Judas Priests, your Megadeths, and your Metallicas to
To
your Halloweens and whatnot.
to fucking Udo, which like I like Udo. How many people have heard of Udo outside of like Germany and Europe? Like, come on.
You should read it at some point. Maybe you'd like it.
No, you should listen to it. I don't think reading the lyrics is really going to do the same thing as like listening to the albums.
You know what I'm talking about, you fucking dillweed. But no, Dark Schneider should fight Bakura from Yu-Gi-Oh, because that would be funny. And
Bakura.
seeing Bakura summon the big dick dragon versus Dark Schneider's dragon mech would be funny.
If anyone's wondering, my favorite song from Udo is probably Heavy Metal Heaven. But I also really like Speed Demon. Coincidentally, part of the same album. This one's like kind of whatever to me. I'm not really feeling it. If I feel like if Dash was gonna fight a character from any fighting game, it'd have to be someone from Guilty Gear. Like, I feel like it just has to be.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I'm not sure who, because I haven't like read Bastard, or watched it, and so I'd need to think like more on it if I did. But there has to be something. And then there's The Undertaker versus The Crow. I am realizing Undertaker versus Gravedigger is not on this, but that is a really fun one.
What the fuck's up with that?
Because no one thinks
Undertaker fighting a monster truck sounds like the funniest shit ever.
I think it's really funny, but I really do like The Undertaker versus The Crow. I'm putting it at the top. All right. Do I have to explain the next one?
I love the idea we workshopped where Undertaker comes in on his motorcycle, and then as he's fighting Gravedigger just like buries him into the dirt, and then he drives back up out of it in his truck.
Using the truck. I think it'd be really funny to have Son of a Digger and Gravedigger Jr. just show up. It would be extra funny if Kane showed up, but instead he helped the monster trucks because he really doesn't like Taker much. Like, you think it's gonna be like a team fight, really, and then Kane just like fucking choke slams Taker.
Can you imagine it's revealed that Kane was the one driving Gravedigger the entire time?
What a fucking like nonsense reveal that would be.
But not out of line.
It's not out of line
with WWE.
Like, everyone would expect it to be Dennis Anderson. Like, that's the guy. I'm sure not. Like, I'm sure you know everyone who Dennis Anderson is, right? You know, or Adam Anderson.
Yeah,
it could also be him. The Andersons. You know, those two, right? You guys know who they are, right? Right.
If you know who the Andersons are, leave a comment.
Currently, I believe driven by Dennis Anderson's daughter. I know this. Shut up. Not that you know.
Sure I do.
I believe she holds a world record, actually. I don't remember which one it is. I'd tell you to Google it, but I'd feel defeated if you did. Kirsten? No, Kristen. I'm gonna lock that in and just say
Kristen,
that's it. Oh, you did Google it. Okay, shut up.
You are correct. It's Kristen Anderson.
I'm correct. All right. Do I need to explain the next one to you?
I'm just gonna go ahead and say that I don't want it.
I love this. It's dumb though. It's Cthulhu versus Palutena, because they are green space gods who are also massive frauds, absolute frauds, who are not as powerful as everyone says they are, to the point where the star level stuff brought up for both is wrong. And yeah.
I feel like the big thing for me is just that, like, portraying Cthulhu in a death battle kind of defeats half the point of them.
Yeah. I'm gonna put this in though, but I do love this matchup. This is like a not death battle coded matchup. We would do this on not death battle. And we would have Cthulhu win, and then the explanation would be for why Palutena wins, and the only reason it looked like Cthulhu won is because he was fucking with your mind the whole time. But the hosts are just too dumb to be influenced. Well, no, not Boomstick is like friends with Cthulhu, I guess, so like he wouldn't be. I'm not explaining that.
Yeah.
Alright. This is one of yours.
You want me to explain the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Brownie points to whoever can tell me who these two are just by looking at them. The first is Kitaro from Gegege no Kitaro, and technically his father, who is also his left eyeball, named Daddy Eyeball. And fun fact, both Kitaro and Daddy Eyeball are voiced by Masato Nozawa, who you may know as Goku. And the other is Enma-kun from Dororon Enma-kun, which is a comedy horror manga by Go Nagai, who is one of my favorite mangaka. And both of these are kids who were born under strange circumstances as yokai children. They also had anime semi-recently. I mean, there's never been a fucking decade since his release that Kitaro hasn't had anime, but they had semi-recent anime. Oh, and Enma-kun has a talking hat, so they both have familiars on their heads.
That's one way to describe it.
They are small yokai children that use their powers. Yeah. Well, a Daddy Eyeball usually doesn't like sit in his eye socket, I guess, where you'd expect an eye to be. He's usually just on Kitaro's head.
That's not a very useful eyeball. He doesn't listen to what you say.
He sits in a cup sometimes.
That just sounds painful.
And then Enma-kun's hat is just a fucking dweeb.
So is this eyeball.
They use their powers to fight other yokai, and occasionally help people, but not always. Sometimes they just like to fuck with people. I think it's pretty cool.
Okay, so
I would put it in sure.
Alright. And then we have... You chose, like, the worst images to convey the characters.
Yeah, that was the goal.
Well, why don't you fucking explain what you've done? Why don't you fucking explain?
Okay. On the left here we have Sir Daniel Fortescue from Medieval, which is a funny, I guess, horror comedy hack and slash from the old PS1 days. And you may not recognize him for this design. This is Sir Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins. Specifically his design from Cannon Spike, in which he pilots a mech suit that stands at 210 centimeters or 6 foot 10.7 inches.
Wow.
This likely would not
really
be what
around.
he uses in the... It likely wouldn't be what he uses in the fight. I just think
this design...
I think it's funny how fucking nothing like Sir Arthur this design looks.
You should use this design for Sir Arthur against the one, like, really cool design for Dig Dug, where, like, Taizahori looks like the coolest guy ever. Just because, like, just do those specific versions of the characters against one another.
Yeah. I
one version of
think
Dig
this
Dug where you
design's
can
really funny. It just doesn't fucking... Because I remember... I think it was Brandon showed me just this image, and he was like, "Who do you think this is?" And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, "This is Sir Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins." I'm like, that doesn't look anything like him.
My first thought would be that's a fucking Yu-Gi-Oh creature.
Cannon Spike's a really weird game. People in the audience, you should look into it. It's a little Capcom crossover game. It's very odd, but neat.
This one's a sure enough for me. I get it. I think it's neat, but it's not my go-to for either.
No, definitely. I agree.
Yeah. Speaking of video games, we have Gordon Ramsay versus Isaac Newton.
Uh, Not quite.
I'm like 50% accurate.
Uh,
A little bit
I
over.
I
The versus
really
is accurate too.
I really like
We've talked about
I really like
Gordon.
Gordon versus
We've
Isaac.
talked about Gordon Freeman versus Isaac Clarke before. This one's like, yeah, up to the top you go. It's awesome. Now this is another one of
Yeah.
yours here.
This is Firebrand from the Gargoyle's Quest / Demon Crest spinoff of Ghost and Goblins, and Kid Dracula from the Kid Dracula spinoff of Castlevania. Castlevania Ghost and Goblins, if you don't know their legacy, are the gothic horror themed platformers that were known for being tough as nails. And if you could beat those games, you were like the coolest kid in school back in the day. Um,
So
and these are the little weird chibi spin-offs. Firebrand is based on the Red Armor, which is just an enemy in Ghost of Goblins, and Kid Dracula is technically Alucard, which I that's just silly. I think that's fun. Um, that's all this matchup is just Ghost of Goblins versus Castlevania, but spin off and silly. I would have it in the second highest tier, personally.
okay. I'm gonna go on what you say. We have here the Barbaduke, iconic gay icon. Everyone support him, and the Looksee from Crypt TV. I really like this. I mean, they are demon fuckers who go away when you let go of what you're grieving. That's the thing.
And they've got funny fingers.
They do. I mean, they kind of look funny. Look, they have funny mouths too. I really like this.
They
I think it
do.
goes in sure enough. I feel like there are a few things that give me
Yeah.
pause, but I think like Crypt TV would be cool to see, and the Looksee is the one character that you could probably use.
Yeah, it's been a little while since I've watched anything from Crypt TV, but
Honestly,
most of
same.
what I've seen has been pretty high quality.
Right, we have Luigi versus Shagget.
Honestly, I could see it being fun.
This is a sure enough one for me. It's like, yeah, it's all right. I could go with it. Actually, no. For me, it's probably a whatever. Uh, but
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I think at the very least it could make a fun Halloween DBX. Have them
yeah,
have it be similar again to Scooby versus Courage, and have maybe Shaggy's in Luigi's mansion, and there's like booze and stuff going around, and then have the fight lean into some of the more absurd stuff Shaggy has had at some point. Maybe like give him a couple of his multiverses moveset. Give him like that samurai sword he had one time. Let him turn into Shazam. Why not?
yeah. Then they can both shoot lightning at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one we have here is the Horned Serpent from Monument Mythos versus SCP-682. This is one of mine. This is a matchup I really like. I think it's cool. I like it a lot more than 682 versus Doomsday, because it actually plays into what I like about SCP, which is not just a random, like, street brawl, but, like, that more out there, ridiculous cosmic bullshit, though not as much cosmic as much as complete bullshit. That said, this is one I would want to do for not Death Battle. This is not one that I'm here to see Death Battle do. I'm still personally going to put it.
This isn't here to rank it based on a death battle. This is just a platform for you to tell them to back off.
This is still a sure enough for me, but I know they're not going to do it. Also, I did draw both of those. That's why they look so bad. All right, this one's for you.
It is. This is Shinichi Izumi versus Hyuncha, I believe, from Parasite and Sweet Home. They are both survivors of an invasion of man-eating monsters who eventually get one of them fused with them, I believe. Or I think Hyuncha just one of the monsters outright, but is able to like control it, and they help fight the monsters. I know Shinichi's most popular used to be Kami,
It still probably is
but
his most popular.
it still probably is. But Kaneki versus Aaron's super popular,
Yeah,
and I do like that one. And
it's not
we probably
Kaneki's
could
most
have put it
popular.
on here, but yeah, I mainly just I wanted to use Shinichi, and this seemed like a pretty popular one for him. And I've heard good things about Sweet Home. It's something I've been meaning to look into. Uh, if you haven't seen Parasite the Maxim or read the original Parasite manga, you should. It's a pretty cool little horror manga.
I have both the entire anime
It's very
and the
evocative of
live action
like
series
the
like
Thing.
on DVD, and I've just not watched either of them on Blu-ray at that.
Well, that's a completely different format. So the first you lied the first time.
Yeah. Well, no, I've got the live action one I've got on DVD. The anime I've got on Blu-ray.
Oh, okay.
So I was only half lying because I forgot that I've only got season 1 of the anime on DVD, and the rest I have on Blu-ray. And I've also got season 1 on Blu-ray as well because we completely forgot. My dad and I completely forgot we already had it. So we got the anime, the Blu-ray as well. So we just got 2. Anyway, yeah. So where would you put this?
I would put this in the highest tier just because I want to see Parasite on the show, and I think Sweet Home would be a cool series to cover.
All right. So there are definitely people who are going to be questioning the next one. Why is this in the Halloweeny one? You have not watched Shin Kamen Rider Prologue if you do not understand that, and you clearly do not remember the, original very horror-esque take on the Hulk that is kind of his thing. Or the fucking first transformation scene in the Lu-Fno series.
More so, I'm sure people are questioning what this horrifying fucking bug man is.
That is the most out there version of Takashi Hongo, Shin Katsunomori, something like that, which is also fucking series creators. Names escape me. I will remember it in a moment. No, Don's gonna remember before I do because he's not having a brain fart right now. His favorite. This is Ishinomori's favorite Kamen Rider.
Shotaro Ishinomori?
Yeah. I remembered before you did. Take that. This is Ishinomori's favorite Kamen Rider, I believe. This is Kamen Rider Shin versus the Lu-Fno. Yeah. There's like an interview where it was like, this is like the exact like vision I had for Kamen Rider, but he didn't get to clearly finish it. Which is unfortunate, because while I'm not a big fan of Shin Kamen Rider Prologue, I do think it deserved an actual follow-on, because they definitely left a lot that could have been done for the future. But they just didn't happen. But it is very much a horror tokusatsu
I think the biggest thing I took away from it was just that it's very esoteric. There's a lot of shit that just happens.
The thing I got from it is Shin's life fucking
like
sucks.
Him fucking traveling into a sewer tunnel and seeing his fucking alien baby floating there like a collectible item in an N64 game.
Yeah. But so this matchup is like the freaky versions of those, like the weird, the least accurate interpretations of those characters. Like Lu-Fno Hulk, I wouldn't exactly say that visually he is exactly the most fitting. If you took all the versions of Hulk and put them together, he doesn't look as out there as like Hulk 2099. But if you put the live action Hulks together, he definitely stands out. Not in the best way though. But that's just due to like the.
He's not even named Bruce because they thought Bruce sounded too gay.
Sounded too gay. Literally how they put it. Yeah. But also, like, their lives suck. They were both created that way because of a stupid idea of what makes a perfect, like, life form. Like, oh, a gamma ray is going to make the perfect life form. A grasshopper is the ultimate life form. Their lives suck. Their lives are just total garbage. And they just, like, work on, like, a similar scale.
Yeah.
Their transformation sequences do remind me of one another because they're just outright horrific.
And then, if you really did want to argue that, oh, well, Kamen Rider Shin shows up next to these other Kamen Riders, so he's just as strong, Lu-Fno Hulk shows up in Marvel Superheroes, so shut up.
Yeah, he shows him in Lego Marvel Superheroes, and he's literally just called Lu-Fno, and he just turns into the Hulk. I would just use the original series because you get the same result anyway, which is Shin winning. Uh, I really genuinely like this one. I think it's a really unique Hulk to use. I think it'd be cool to see him analyzed. I think Shin is genuinely a really cool Kamen Rider, despite how little he gets used and how underwhelming as a character he probably is. But visually he's really cool, and his fights are quite fun. I really like Luffy. I like David Banner versus Shin. And I don't care what anyone says. Shut up. Then we have Ash Williams versus Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I get it. But no, I don't. But like, I understand where it's coming from.
I don't have much opinion.
Funnily enough, this is probably the Buffy matchup that I think fits best with like the way she fights, because she does tend to have like, very skilled but also very clumsy at times. While Ash is pretty much the opposite of that, very clumsy, but sometimes he pulls out genuine skill. I think as a character dynamic, it's really fun, because like Buffy is not the most serious character out there. She's pretty goofy, and I think I would really like to see how she responds to any of the shit Ash says. But I just think for a death battle, it probably gives me the most of what I want from Buffy of any of her matchups. But I would be more in it for Ash. I do really like Buffy, but I'm in it for Ash. And this is kind of whatever in that case. Though speaking of like really fucking out there matchups, this was one that makes perfect sense. It's Christine versus the car.
See, this is the exact joke you made about the Thing and the Blob of what if one of them had just a normal name.
Yeah. It's just Christine versus 1977's The Car. I do not remember the car having a name in that film. I think it is just the car.
Let me look it up, actually.
Yeah, maybe the car's actual name is Jeremy, and we can call it Jeremy versus Christine.
Let's see. The car. 1977 film. Yup. Self-driving. Your spin-off sequel.
Yeah. Just like
a 2019 film. I did not hear about this. Negative reviews. Who could have guessed?
I did not watch it. All I know is that it exists.
Sorry, excuse me. Similar titles: Killdozer.
Wait, what? There's
a 1974 film called Killdozer.
But, like, I wouldn't exactly say they're similar. Yes, it is a sentient vehicle, but I would say that like movies like Christine and Maximum Overdrive, maybe even like Black Cadillac, just
the hearse.
The hearse, yeah, that's one that slipped my mind.
Wheels of Terror.
I'm not familiar.
Honestly, bring back Death Race and have a Royale.
Yeah, I think this one's funny. I'll put this in Sure Enough because I think it's very amusing, especially because the name would just be Christine versus the car.
Have a Royale between the car, Killdozer, the hearse, Christine, fucking the car from Maximum Overdrive, Wheels of Terror, Black Cadillac, Phantom Racer, the honking, where Bender default. I think I saw this episode of Futurama actually.
SCP-682. That one time he turned into a police car, just a ghost police car at that, just because it'd be funny.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the car has a name.
Put in the
it
Transformer.
looks like it's just referred to as the car.
But like the Transformer is like Starscream. It's not one of the cars. It's just Starscream.
That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, this one's one of yours.
Fuck, hold on. It is Victor Crowley versus the Djinn. Victor Crowley's from Hatchet, and the Djinn is from Wishmaster.
Love the Jin.
Both of which are films made to pay. They are made to pay homage to the '80s era of slasher films, and both try to lean as heavily into practical effects as they can. Um, Victor Crowley mainly leans into the more human side of '80s slashers. Your Michael Myers is your Jason Voorhees is your Leatherfaces, and then the Jin leans more into your supernatural slashers like your Freddy Kruegers, your Pinheads, your Candymans, and both of them, as franchises, are known for featuring very prominent horror movie actors like Tony Todd, Kane Hodder, Robert England showing up as miscellaneous characters, as cameos. Um, and there is, I think, a precedent in the Hatchet comics of Victor Crowley fighting some powerful demons with their magic abilities and stuff. So he's not completely out of his depth fighting someone like the Jinn, I don't think, unless one of the later Wishmaster movies makes him like way more insane.
I believe.
But
I
think there's
like whatever.
Yeah, I think that there's a strong enough core theme that this is like not an off-brand Freddy versus Jason, but hits a similar beat, but
Doesn't have any
instead of a
movie
rivalry,
dedicated to it.
them being yeah. I think it just sounds funny, mainly.
Yeah. Where would you put it? This is yours. So.
I would put it in the second highest just because there are other horror matchups I'd like to see first, but I think this one is cool.
I have not seen past the first Hatchet, I will admit. I've seen like the 3 of the Wishmaster films. I like Wishmaster even at its worst because it's funny. The Jin's just very likable as an asshole. So okay, this is another one that people are going to be questioning. But having actually like begun watching Garo as a series, that's a fucking horror tokusatsu. I don't know how else to put it. It just is a horror tokusatsu. I much more than even the first 13 episodes of Kamen Rider or the original Ultra Q. It just is. And this is Leon Luis from Carved Seal of Flames versus Velvet Crow from Tales of Berseria. I really like this one. My son will back me up. Go in the comments, son. Back me up. I really like it. The whole thing is they devoted their entire life to revenge, then found out that revenge literally just does not matter. It completely destroys their lives and they try to fucking kill themselves. And they come out of it as better people. And then they fight a being who like fuses with another being and is like completely unkillable. And they find a way anyway. To pretty much put them in like... Well, actually, I'm not going to say what they do. Because it's not quite similar, and also my son could be watching and he's not finished Tales of Berseria. But just know that the final boss is like an unkillable thing. Child. I really like this one.
I personally I'm not thoroughly convinced that Velvet Crow exists because I don't ever see her outside of Death Battle thumbnails.
It genuinely bothers me because I really fucking like Velvet. At first she wasn't quite my favorite, but like when her arc's over, yeah, she's my favorite character in the game. My second is probably Aizen.
It's weird too because I see her as matchups for so many characters. I saw her as a Ragna matchup first, and I'm like, okay, a Ragna alternative, that seems cool. And then I saw her as a Devilman matchup, and I'm like, okay, I'm not so sure I get the vibe still.
No, I don't really understand that one that much. I get the whole like demon person thing, but like that it's very different. Like she is a demon, while I'm pretty sure there is like a distinct gap between the person and the demon with Devilman.
Yeah, I mean, technically he's not a human or he doesn't identify as a human or a demon. He identifies as a Devilman.
That's fucking lovely.
Yeah, which is just to say that he hates both humans and demons and is his own thing, and he will, by the end of the story, kill both of them.
I mean, I guess that's kind of similar to Velvet. She kind of just doesn't give a shit about anyone. She doesn't actively try to kill them, although she's just trying to kill one guy.
Have I ever shared with you Amon's backstory?
Yes. one time. I don't remember it exactly, but I did have a few questions I recall.
For for the viewers, the TLDR, Amon is the demon half of Devilman, whose backstory is he used to be a knight that worked for God, and one of his co-workers was Satan or Lucifer at the time, who had a Pegasus. Amon had a dragon, and through some tomfuckery by Lucifer, who turned himself into Satan by fusing with a Pegasus, Amon was turned into a demon by being fused with a dragon and a werewolf,
Mm-hmm.
which is just like a knight of God being fused with a dragon and a werewolf and then becoming the demon hero, the most fearsome demon to ever live, is
What a
just like
fucking
the most
nonsense
metal thing I've
backstory,
ever
right?
heard.
But you can kind of
It's
see the
complete nonsense,
intricate
but it's so
comparison.
cool.
Anyway, yeah, I really like Leon Luis versus Velvet. Velvet Ragnar is still really cool, but Leon Luis is one of my favorite characters of all time, and Ragnar isn't quite there. I still have a very strong attachment, obviously, to Ragnar, but yeah, not quite there. Okay, do we want to waste time talking about D versus Alucard again?
Uh, I think it's really cool, and I think the debate is really fun, and I like it. Put it in the top tier.
Alright, Ghost Rider versus Spawn. It speaks for
I
itself.
like it.
Top tier. Alright, the
Yeah.
Tyranid versus the Flood. This, as I've said before, is my preferred for the Flood, and it has the exact same problem every other Flood matchup has. How would Death Battle even fucking do it? Ignoring Games Workshop suck. Just how would they do this? Like, the Flood in general, how would they do that?
Yeah, just rendering that many things at once.
Yeah. I put this in sure enough because I still do personally really like it. But it does have that problem, because the other problem is the Tyranids are probably an even bigger swarm than the Flood, and more complexly designed. So that doesn't exactly
Yeah.
help the situation, now does it?
I'll say if Bowser versus Eggman's army battle manages to convey a solid sense of scale, maybe they could do it hand drawn.
The two things. One, definitely
Maybe.
a lot more passion gonna go into Bowser Eggman than these two. And two, you at least have the central characters of Bowser and Eggman. With the Tyranids and the Flood, you could do like a really fucking big Flood and a Hive Tyrant, but like the main central characters, which are the Grave Mind and the Hive Mind, they are kind of just not going to be there physically.
That's true.
But I still think it's cool. We So speaking of Ducko, from earlier, Jaws versus Jason Voorhees.
Yeah. I mean, I won't say that the idea of Jason beating the shit out of a shark doesn't sound cool, but
I could buy it if it was Multi versus Jason. Just like the really stupid buff design against like a really exaggerated
I mean,
shark.
I could honestly buy Kane Hodder Jason just picking a shark up by its tail and
No,
tossing
I
it.
could buy Kane Hodder tossing a shark. I don't know about Jason.
I mean, Jason's done some pretty insane shit before.
I think this is really funny.
There's yeah, I think this could be yeah, this could be funny.
I'm gonna sound
Fuck
insane.
it, why not?
This is like insure enough, and I don't care how that looks. All right, we have Ellen Ripley versus Sarah Connor. Yeah, I fucking really like this one actually.
Yeah, it's neat.
Yep, up to the top.
Sigourney
Yeah,
Weaver is a badass.
I think both these characters and their films are cool, and I really like the connection. I think it's cool. I think it'd be really funny to see Ripley pull out the giant mech suit just out of nowhere. Like it's not even in the set. Like, imagine a 3D fight. It's not even there. She just spawns it in.
That'd be pretty funny.
It did already appear in Crash Spyro, so, you know. We have Beetlejuice versus Grimm.
Personally, I've grown on the idea of Billy, Mandy, and Grimm versus Timmy, Cosmo, and Wanda.
Cool. I'll put this in sure enough because it seems fun, but I'm not like really dedicated to it. All right, so this one I only put in because I needed an extra one to go in, and I forgot about Humbaba versus Grendel until literally the last second. A real guilty pleasure matchup of mine is the a Balrog from Middle Earth versus a fucking Bloodthirster from Warhammer, and this is kind of like the natural, like, exaggeration of it. Angron's not a Bloodthirster, but it's Angron versus Gothmog the Balrog. I really like this, but also, there's like no visual media for either to make an analysis with. Like people like talk about how Sauron has no appearances. No, Sauron's got a lot more than Gothmog. And Angron ain't doing shit. So, I'll put it in sure enough because I personally like it. I think it's really dumb, but, yeah, you're not gonna do much visually with it. And then there's Rachel versus Remelia.
Yeah.
I think it's cool, but you've got like my actual go-to for Rachel on here. So this is a sure enough. I don't dislike it, but I'm not dying to see it either. All right. We have Dr. Manhattan versus Richard Nixon. Unless you have more to say about Rachel or Amelia, because I assume by you going, that you had nothing more to say.
I'm just not terribly keen to see Toho on the show.
They should use Wriggle Nightbug. I like Wriggle Nightbug. I like that she does rider kicks.
I like Cheerno. Cheerno's funny.
Okay, now we have Dr. Manhattan versus Richard Nixon. I kind of want to do this for Not Death Battle, because I can go in a very non-traditional, like, path that I just don't see Death Battle doing. And I have a lot of ideas for how to, like, portray the fight. I don't know how much I'm dying to see it for Death Battle, though. I feel like it would be done like a standard fight, and I'm just not like up for that personally. But I like the matchup enough. It's a sure enough for me, but I'm not dying to see it. Now that I've actually watched Nixon verse, I do appreciate the matchup more. I like the matchup. Still not really a Death Battle matchup to me. Now, what if we had a matchup that wasn't a Death Battle matchup and also was Springtrap versus the Ink Demon?
I mean, visually, I could see something going on here, but like, not doing a lot for me. These are not characters I particularly care about.
This is a whatever to me.
Nor can I imagine the fight.
I can't say it's a no because like you
I can't imagine it being that interesting.
Visually, it's probably quite nice, but nah, this is not for me. We have the Operator versus False Gabriel. I love this matchup. Top tier, end of story. I like Mandela Catalog. I like Marble Hornets a lot more. I think the Operator is the only time Slender Man's been remotely interesting, and False Gabriel's pretty cool. This is also kind of another one that's like, back off Death Battle, let me do this. But then I don't think I could do it the way I want to, so. And I think the end of the Analog Horror like crew here is another fucking Springtrap matchup. It's Springtrap versus Goji. And to be clear, the man in the suit refers to himself as Goji. So that is the closest you'll get to an actual name.
This one's pretty. It's pretty whatever.
I don't dislike it, but as I talked to you about before we even started recording, this one's in like a very nebulous position to me where I'm not sure if I actually like it or if I just kind of look at it with ambivalence. I get it. I understand it. I prefer it to Dark Old Iron Man. I'm just maybe as more Man the Suit comes about, maybe I'll come around to either of his matchups more. But I just kind of feel Springtrap is best is probably Chucky, and I'm not even that keen on that one. But this one's fine, but I'm just gonna say whatever. You know what I do like though?
Mm-hmm.
Sir Daniel Fortescue versus Dirk the Daring from Dragon's Lair.
I really like the vibe here. I think it sounds really fun.
I love this because they're like they give you the impression that they're actually really hyper competent, but then you actually play any of their games for like a second and you realize no, these two suck. Like these two can't do jack shit without dumb luck.
It's
like
a very it's like a very chivalrous Dan versus Hercule.
Yeah, it's Dan versus Hercule, but they're actually trying to be what they say they are and what everyone thinks they are. The only other Dirk matchup is fucking Smaug, which I do find to be really funny, but I would go with this. I think this is cool. This is the Daniel matchup that I've been looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have maybe the only one that'll go in, I don't know, and that is the Knight from Dead by Daylight versus Apollyon from For Honor. I
know that the Knight was, at least as far as the data mine said, initially supposed to be a For Honor character in Dead by Daylight.
Well, that's kind of neat.
I think was supposed to be this character actually.
That's kind of neat, but I can't say I know these two well enough to like make a solid like claim on it.
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
All right, now we have my actual preferred for both of these characters. To be honest, Slayer versus Rachel. I genuinely
this one actually came to mind. I tossed it in as a little bonus because I was talking to my friend, and I was talking to him the other night actually about horror themed or just like spooky death battle ideas, and he brought this one up. I'm like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that one in a little while, and I think this is so much more interesting than Slayer versus Dimitri or Ramilia versus Rachel.
Yeah, you also put it in because you know I like it.
Yeah, I think it would be really funny if the fight opened up with Valkenhayn being like, "You don't need to step in, I can take care of this," and then Slayer just fucking punches him over the horizon.
And Rachel says, "No, you can't." I like that these two.
Rachel's just, like, "Yeah, that tracks."
Blazewee versus
I'll
Guilty
take care
Gear,
of it.
But they're also the vampires who are like one of the strongest characters around generally. And all of their sprites, when they get hit, exist to show you that the hit did not sell. Like, all of their animations are designed to make you go, you hit them, they don't care, they hit you, you'll feel it, you defeat them, and they just kind of are bored of the fight. And they're like, yeah, alright, go ahead. I guess you can win, I'm not really feeling any more.
They're also, like, they're such different degrees of posh, I guess.
They are both super posh. Just
and it's like neither of them is going to be giving a shit the whole fight, and it's going to be like so casually destructive. And it's just like Slayer's absolutely going to be there to kill time, and then he just beats the shit out of Valkenhayn, and Rachel's like, well, all right, I guess I'll fight you. I don't have anything else going on.
I really like that vibe. I'm not sure how you'd end it. I mean, Slayer would win. And I'm fine with that. I'm not really bothered by who wins, actually. I quite like both of them.
I mean, it would end with a haiku, obviously.
Yeah. What if Rachel's last words are like, I'm really bothered by dying, but that haiku is actually pretty good. And then she just dies. Like, with that as, like, the last thought she has. is, yeah, that wasn't bad actually. That's so dumb.
That'd be pretty funny. Yeah, I like this one a whole lot.
Yeah.
I would personally put it at the top.
Oh yeah, I'd put that at the top. Like I said before, my favorite Blaze with Guilty Gear would probably be Chip Bang, and my second would be Tega, and you know all that. But I think this is actually probably my favorite, not counting Ragnar Soul. That's already happened.
Yeah.
If you want to count that as an episode.
I think Kazuma versus Happy Chaos is kind of cool. I think it's neat.
Yeah.
The idea of like they aren't technically Terra-Me or that man, but they're kind of Terra-Me that man.
If you squint.
And they've got their own shit going on, and like I think it's neat. I know both have got other matchups aplenty, but
yeah, they have plenty of other matchups. This is just my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this one is Eric, the Phantom of the Opera, versus Beast from Beauty and the Beast, the Disney one.
Well, don't call the Phantom by his name and not call Beast by his name.
What is Beast's name? Does he have a name? I watched the movie recently.
I want to.
He's French.
I want to see it was like
he's French.
Adam
Why should I
something?
give him any respect?
What the fuck was his name? Hold on.
Well, it can't be Adam the Scrum.
I want to fuck. Shit. Does he have a name? Yeah, it is Adam. Okay, I did remember that correctly.
What a fucking lame name. No offense to the fifth one that came out.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, inspiration: the beasts from the original fairy tale, several wild animals, and then also based on Val Kilmer and Arnold Schwarzenegger. In what regard?
I guess he's the size of Arnold, if that really fucking counts. Like,
in what sense is he Val Kilmer?
Big lips. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, I understand this.
The more you know.
The more you know, the less it makes sense. The character. I get this. I understand this. They are both French. My only issue is, how is this going to work as a fight?
I don't know. I don't know what all the Phantom can do. I don't remember all of his phantomly powers.
The Phantom is mostly just a guy who's deformed. And the Beast...
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
The Beast is this is tantamount to the Beast versus Quasimodo. And I think you can kind of understand, from a physical standpoint, the issue you have there. You have pretty much just a bloke with a really fucked up head, who gets treated like shit by everyone because he's ugly. And then a giant fuck-off monster, who's like twice his height, thrice his weight, and has big-ass claws and teeth. I understand the matchup, though. I think thematically it's kind of cool. And, like, I do quite like both of them. But I think this is, like, gonna be, like, a hard no from me. Maybe I'm misremembering with the Phantom. Maybe there's more to him in, like, the original story. Maybe some of the adaptations give him more. I'm thinking about the 1920s Phantom. And that...
Yeah, I'm looking at the version of him from just, like, the story proper, not, like, the movie. It says, let's see, hypnotic singing, sleep manipulation with ether. Let's see, has a whip. Comparable to skilled Indian warriors in martial arts, so take that as for what you will. Was the first ventriloquist. Doesn't need to eat, sleep, or drink, so he might be slightly supernatural.
Clearly he's supernatural. Clearly the Beast would still just bite his head off.
Yeah, he would just fucking
Obviously,
disembowel
what
him.
you need to do is use the Fate version of Phantom of the Opera, and then use like all the composite for the beast, make them both universal, and just see how that shakes out.
Yeah, just see what happens.
But I'd say this is sadly a no for me, but I do think it's cool. All right, we have
Yeah,
Sadako. Oh, you know what? This one you definitely have more stake in, so you can speak. You have my permission to blabber.
I do. Uh, these two are examples of onryo, typically depicted as
I didn't actually
women who were violently murdered and come
I
back as
didn't actually
vengeful
finish
spirits
introducing
with
them.
pale skin and black hair. We have Sadako Yamamura from Ring or The Ring,
Yeah,
and
Ringu.
Kayako Saeki from a series of things, but most notably under the title The Grudge or Ju-on. Uh, these two are like the big pillars of J horror in the resurgence of it in I want to say like the late 90s, early 2000s is when America really started paying attention to it, which uh, Sadako at least originates in I want to say 1990 91 with the original novel. I forget when
Yes.
Kayako's first story came out.
Well, I think
Uh,
Ju-on is it was a short film, the original like thing.
it it was three
it's
short films
yeah.
first, I think.
I think it was a Katasumi and like a bunch of fours, like a bunch of fours.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Uh,
I think it's
and
like
a lot of people
97, something
may
like that.
think that there's nothing you could really do with this, but let me tell you, there's a lot more of these characters than there seems to be. Like in the novels, for example, Sadako doesn't just make evil videotapes, but can spread her influence through the internet, create a plague that is a mutated version of the smallpox virus. Oddly, um, apparently has some sort of pocket dimension she can reside in that's like part of a multiversal web. I don't think she is multiversal, but it's like part of that. Uh, and then Kayako can like turn into shadows. Both of them can just strangle people with their hair, and Kayako can like turn people into ghosts and stuff. Uh, both of their stories vary a lot depending on what adaptation you're going with and what powers they have vary as well. But compositing both should be fine for this matchup. And fun fact to anyone whom this information they may find it cool, Tadako is actually canonically transgender. So there you go. Um, and both of them have made official public appearances at baseball games.
So suffice to say, this goes in the top.
Yeah, I think it's really fun, and then obviously there's grounds for comparison in the Sadako versus Kayako movie, which gives us a vague idea of I guess like even if you want to say that their canonical showings are vastly different, you could scale them to each other through that, and then focus it mainly on their abilities to see who would win. I think there's a lot of angles you could approach it from, and it would be pretty cool.
And then we have Chucky versus Slappy. I quite like this, and I think, like I've said before, one of my favorite things about this is just how inappropriate Chucky would be in the world of Goosebumps.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've talked about this before.
I can
I love this.
imagine Chucky being like, "Fuck you, you fucking cocksucker, you piece of shit! I'll bite your fucking cock," and like to Slappy, just like his jaw just unhinges, and he just looks at the camera and looks back at Chucky, and he's like, oh my god."
Yeah, that was not what I was expecting to come out of your mouth at all. No.
And then I think Max posited the idea of Chucky having the army of Goosebumps monsters from the Goosebumps movie, and Chucky having his army of Chuckies.
His army of himself.
That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, his army of just other good guy dolls.
Mm-hmm. Now we have Oogie Boogie versus Pitch Black from Rise of the Guardians.
Kidnap the Santa Claus, put him in a bag.
Um,
What's Pitch Black gonna do when Oogie Boogie puts him in a sack and then smacks him against a wall?
Probably throw a star at him. He's very strong in the books.
I think I did know that there were books. I hadn't thought about it though.
I believe
I really like Rise of the Guardians. It's been a
very strong. I love
it.
It
used to be one of my favorite movies. I haven't seen it in a long time.
My only problem with this matchup is, you know what the least interesting part of that movie is? It's Pitch Black.
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
The best part of Pitch Black is Jack Frost's side of their relationship. Look,
yeah,
I think this would be cool. I just don't know how much interested I'd be in, like, as a full episode.
Yeah, I don't think most Oogie Boogie matchups sound all that fun, really, because Oogie Boogie also, like, I mean, he's memorable, he's fun, but he's not, like, nearly the most interesting part of Nightmare Before Christmas.
I think this one's... I wouldn't put it in no, because I can see the vision, but I got to put this in a kind of a whatever matchup to me, because Oogie Boogie is really likable, but not a lot to say. Pitch Black has plenty to say, he's just really boring. Also, in that thumbnail, Oogie Boogie's absolutely about to say he's right behind me, isn't he?
Yeah.
And now we ended off with the Universal Monsters Battle Royale. Wasn't specified who, so I just said, put all the main ones in. Dracula, Frankenstein, the legendary Wolfman, the Gill Man, the Invisible Man, and the Mummy Man.
Actually, it's Frankenstein's monster. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair response.
Just wanted to leave that really long, awkward silence. I just couldn't keep it in.
Just fucking dead silence.
Alright. This one, it's obviously going to depend on the lineup you use, how interesting it would be. I like it, though. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think it could definitely be fun. I think the funniest aspect of this is that at least on screen, the Invisible Man has far and away the highest kill count.
And that said, he's also the one who's just gonna lose. I think it'd be really funny if he shows up at the start, and then he like immediately strips so you can't see him, and then he never shows up again until the very end of the fight, where there's just this puddle of blood on the floor with nothing on it. And like the winner just looks over and is like, oh, I guess that's where he ended up. Like in the background you just see like the Wolfman swing at someone, and in the middle of the swing there's just like a big spurt of blood, and like that's the Invisible Man just dying and being completely uninteresting. Just not there. He's barely in the fight. He just dies unceremoniously and it's not really addressed and easy to miss.
Yeah, that would be pretty silly.
Yeah, this one I'm gonna put this in top tier just because I think it'd be really cool, especially if the whole fight was black and white, which it should be.
Yeah. Also, fun fact for any Darkstalkers fans in the audience: John Talbane gets his name from the Wolfman, who is named Lawrence Talbot.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say John Wolfman.
John Talbane gets his name from the Wolfman, whose name is John Wolfman.
So, yeah, that is the tier list. That is where it currently sits. That is the video. Yeah.
Leave us your favorite spooky matchups in the comments section.
And again, if anyone compiles all the matchups,
I'll do what I usually.
You'll do what you usually do and populate my comment section.
Yeah, I'll respond to however many I can, and Nem will never respond to any of you because he
Is
hates you
constantly making
all.
videos for you.
Don't listen to him. He doesn't love you. Comment section.
All right, that's the video.
It's me.
This will be
I
linked. This will be linked in the description. And again, as I said, if anyone like lists down the matchups we brought up that aren't on this, I'll throw them in, for you guys to fiddle around with it and do your own little tier list.
You guys should gaslight him. You should throw a couple in there that we just did not mention.
Someone's gonna do that. I'm gonna be like, did I mention?
You're gonna be scrolling through. You're gonna see like fucking Pete versus Bluto in there.
Did...
That's not horror. To be fair though, being turned into a sausage is a horrifying fate. Please edit in the clip of him being turned into a sausage.
All right, then we're gonna end the video on that. Goodbye, everyone. Have a good one.
Bye bye.